Hi everybody, my name is Ashley. I'm the president of the Kafunjo Community Project US Inc. It was on my heart this time to post a more personal update. There's a lot on my heart, and I just thought it might be better to share it with you in a video. And maybe for those of you who don't know me personally, it can help you get to know me a little bit. See the faces of the people who are running this nonprofit to help Kafunjo. Full disclosure, I am not a good public speaker at all, so please bear with me. I'll try to do my best. But something that I really struggle with as the nonprofit's main advocate for Kafunjo is knowing what to share with you guys. Yeah, because the way Kafunjo's life is right now is far from normal for them. Prior to COVID, they already struggled a lot, but you can imagine how much COVID has affected rural, that's a hard word to say, rural Uganda. I really struggle because they genuinely do have so much need, and they've had so much more need in the last year and a half than is normal. And from my standpoint, I have a passion to share with you guys, to help you guys get to know the community you're supporting. I really hate to be the nonprofit that is just like asking for donations all the time. Donations, money. Kafunjo is, it's just so far from what Kafunjo is. And I do feel like running our nonprofit like that does rob you of the joy of Kafunjo, because it's just so much more than that. I tell people that I personally needed Kafunjo so much more than they ever needed me. They've taught me so much about how to respond to suffering, how to have hope. They've taught me about love. They've taught me about gratefulness. They've taught me so many things that I needed to learn. And I feel like only a group of people like them, who suffer like them, could have possibly taught me those things, because they know suffering at least way more than I do. They suffer way more than I probably ever will. So anyways, I do just feel like if I only ever share their needs with you, that it doesn't allow you to see the true joy of being a part of a community like them. They're some of the most amazing people I've ever known. They're some of the most grateful people I've ever known, and yet they have so little compared to what I'm used to in my own life. So anyways, I just want you guys to know that I'm trying really hard to find that balance between sharing with you what Kafunjo's needs are versus like just helping you get to know the love, the joy, like everything great about Kafunjo, because I really don't want you to miss out on that. I'd hate for you to miss out on that, because that is what Kafunjo is about. On our website, I have a little quote from Bruno that says, Kafunjo is not about asking for money, it's about love. And it's just so true. Kafunjo is desperate for friendship. They are desperate just for ideas from you. And I love the way Bruno advocates for his own project, because when he has a need, he's never desperate for your money. He never shows that. He simply puts a small request out there. He'll let you know what his needs are, but that's it, and then he'll stop. And then he'll just wait and see what comes. And it doesn't matter how little comes in to support them. They are so appreciative of it. They're so thankful. So anyways, we just all have a lot to learn from Kafunjo. Um, I do know that despite my trying to not post just about their needs all the time, I understand lately that's kind of been what I've needed to do on our nonprofit Facebook page. I know I'm posting a lot of their needs. I know I'm asking for donations. I know I'm in the middle of a fundraiser that's 2 weeks long. I'm sure people get tired of seeing that all the time, and I completely understand that. And that's why I try really hard to not do that. It's just hard because Kafunjo they've been sort of in a nonstop crisis ever since COVID hit the community. And I want to explain a little bit about what's happened. For those who follow all of my Facebook posts for our nonprofit page, props to you. I know I post a lot, and I don't expect everybody to read everything. I don't want to be overwhelming, but at the same time, I do want to inform you all of what is happening. And anyway, so if you've read every single one of my posts, then you will probably know a lot of this information already. Otherwise, I'll just try to give a quick overview of the biggest things that have happened that have made life so much harder for the Kafunjo community since COVID hit Uganda. So, one of the first things that happened when COVID hit Uganda was increased food prices. This is very, very hard for Kafunjo. Ever since that time, ever since those food prices increased the first time, it feels like they've been in a almost constant food crisis where they will get so close to running out of food completely. And I'm going to say there's very close to 150 children at the orphanage now, but there are also another 50 to 100 children who don't live at the orphanage, but who come to the orphanage either every day or very often just to have food. So the project is supporting so many kids. So food is direly needed, and it's extremely expensive. Was it last September? It was late September. We just raised a bunch of money because the project had come to a crisis where they were only 3 days away to having absolutely nothing to feed their kids. Yes, they do have some vegetables from their crops, but it's not much. I asked Bruno, do you have enough vegetables to harvest to feed all of your children? He said no. They would not have been able to do that. So food prices have increased, making that extremely hard. Food crises do happen, it feels like, all the time. And you'll see me post about that. You've probably seen me post a lot about that. And it's hard because, like I said earlier, I want to try to advocate for their needs really well, but it's also hard because I know people can get tired of seeing need after need and after need, and to be completely honest, their needs probably aren't going to stop anytime soon. So I'm going to try to do my best going forward with what to share, not sharing too much. So anyways, the next thing that happened almost immediately after COVID hit Uganda was that the schools were closed down. And as many of you know, the Kafunjo Community Project is a combination of both a school and an orphanage. They're just a 5 minutes walk away from each other. So they're very close. But many of the students who attended the Kafunjo Community Project school, they didn't live at the orphanage, and they still lived at home with their families in the villages. Something that the school provided for all of those students is 3 meals per day for free, as well as medical care. And now that the school system is shut down, they don't have access to that. And just to give you an idea, prior to COVID, many families in the village only could afford to feed their whole families, including the children, just 1 meal per day. And now that food prices have increased, that's lessened by far. And both adults and children have approached Bruno and told him that everybody in the village is suffering. There's no happiness, nobody's smiling, everybody is struggling, and everybody is just starving. There's no food. They have nothing to eat. So, and on top of that, if the parents in the villages can't afford food for their children, they likely can't afford medical care either. So these students who had been relying on the project for healthcare and food now don't have access to that. And it's not uncommon in Uganda, in the villages, to find children who are suffering indefinitely from sometimes progressive illnesses. So that's been a really big struggle. Uganda, and I'm sure all of Africa right now is struggling tremendously with that. So that's been very sad. The schools shut down, and slowly the cost of living generally increased. So fuel, oh gosh, I can't think of anything else. There's so many needs that they need to buy often. Everything is increased though, and it's like Bruno is shocked by how expensive cheap items, usually cheap items cost right now. It's unbelievable how bad it is over there. And the last updates are a little bit more recent, so you might be aware of them already if you've been following my many posts. Let's see. Recently, I believe it was in September, maybe late September, I can't remember the exact date, but this was really challenging because prior to this happening, they were kind of going through, I don't know if it was a drought exactly, but they really needed more rain for their crops. They spent a lot of time, effort, and money, many hours go into getting land ready for planting, and then planting a bunch of different kinds of foods, but their main crops are maize and beans. Those are the ones they rely on the most. Anyway, so much goes into getting that ready during planting season, and they had just finished doing that, and then it started raining, but then it started raining too much, and Bruno woke up one morning, he got a call from a friend saying, you need to come look at the bridge, which was the bridge that they're talking about is the access to the main route to and from the project. Anyways, when Bruno went out to look at the bridge, one, the bridge was completely destroyed. They don't have access anymore to that route. The other route that they have to use is a very, very long route, but the road is also very, very bad. It's already destroyed the shocks on their van, and they've needed to get that replaced. But worse than that, the river flooded, and the water it covered 2 acres of land that they had planted maize and beans on, and it completely destroyed 2 acres of crops. And that was a huge loss for the project. Those crops that are now destroyed due to the flood were going to be ready to harvest in about 1 to 3 months. And now they won't have that to rely on, to fall back on. And Bruno is very disappointed because he had intentionally planted a lot more beans this time around. A lot of children at the project get sick from eating posho because they've eaten posho so much in their life. It's the cheapest food in Uganda, and it's what the project largely relies on to feed the amount of children that they are feeding. So Bruno had intentionally planted a lot more beans this planting season, or I should say last planting season, and now those beans are gone. He was very, very sad about that. So whenever those crops are ready to harvest, I don't know because my notes for that is not right in front of me right now, but it's somewhere between 1 and 3 months, I believe, when they would have been ready to harvest. They're going to be going through yet another brand new kind of food crisis at that time, because they won't just they always do need to buy food from the market, but this time they won't have any food from home. Well, I'm not going to say any, but those 2 acres of food that would have grown food for them, they won't have that. So they'll have to rely more from the market, which is very expensive right now for food. Shortly after that first flood happened, it rained a lot again, and another flood happened in a different area of land, and it destroyed an additional half acre of crops, which I believe was also maize and beans. So they've taken a really hard hit recently. And the last thing I have to say, I know I'm probably forgetting, probably forgetting so many things that I could add to this list, but these are the big ones that I could remember today. I think you guys are mostly aware of this due to my many fundraising posts lately, but the nurse that they had been originally hiring, she was a mobile nurse, and she came to the project. She provided her own medicine, she provided her own medical equipment. She would come to the project, treat the sick children, and then she would go home again. She got married recently, and she has now left the project. When that happened, that created a medical crisis for all of the project, because that left them reliant on the nearest medical clinic, which, with granted they had their bridge so that they could have access to the main route. It was a 40-minute drive, and now it's about an hour and a half drive away from the project. So as soon as their nurse left, they became reliant on that medical clinic. The problems with this medical clinic is they're very much for profit. They are paying way too much money for the treatment that they are providing. They're far. Children get very sick on the drive. Bruno says many children, just because of how bad malaria symptoms can be, and it's the most prominent illness at the project. The drive to the clinic makes the children feel a lot more sick, and he says a lot of children have actually thrown up in the van on the way to the clinic. Oh gosh, what else? The distance, the price, and we've recently found out, and I'll share a little bit more about this in just a few minutes. We've recently found out that the way they were treating the children at the project was not they were intentionally not fully treating the sick children at the project in order to keep the child sick longer, so that Bruno would have to return back to the clinic to pay more for more treatment. So they're just taking advantage of the project. We don't trust them. They don't do a good job. Children stay sick longer when they're treated at the clinic. So anyways, when I started doing this fundraiser about a week ago, 2 weekends ago, I don't know if my fundraiser was seen by the people in UK who support the project as well, but around that same time frame, Bruno did get some very generous help from his UK support team, and it enabled him to at least start the clinic. They did launch officially. They bought medicine, I think, for everything. However, they were not able to buy very much. It was just enough to get them started. It was a huge, huge help. We're so happy for it. So with those donations, he got the clinic started. He purchased medication for most of their needs that would be required to treat children from home, and they also hired a nurse. His name is Nurse Tadeo. He's someone that Bruno really trusts. He already knew. If you remember, if you've been following the project this long, there's a boy, Anatori, who Bruno found in the village, and he had been suffering from a debilitating bone infection for 9 years of his life. Since then, Anatori's received 2 surgeries, I think 2, maybe 3, and he's recovered now, and he's at the orphanage. He's living at the orphanage. But Nurse Tadeo and Bruno knew each other because Nurse Tadeo had worked at the hospital that treated Anatore from his bone infection. So that's really cool. They already knew each other a little bit, and Nurse Tadeo was the one who told Bruno that essentially the other clinic that they have to drive to is ripping them off and intentionally treating them very poorly, guaranteeing that the child will stay sick longer, therefore guaranteeing that Bruno has to bring the child back and pay more for more treatment. So I'm glad they have a nurse they trust. However, the problem is, and I completely understand this because we just raised a lot of money for enabling the project to buy food because they were 3 days away from running out of food, and we raised money to buy 1 month of posho and 2 weeks of beans. But because there were kind of two fundraisers back to back, I haven't received a lot of support in the US for our medical clinic fundraiser yet, and that's okay. The problem with them not receiving the funds they need to finish purchasing medicine and medical equipment is that that would mean that once they run out of medicine, they will then have to be reliant on that medical clinic again that they have to drive to. And I cannot stress this enough. It is just not realistic for them to be able to do that. That clinic will not treat sick children if Bruno cannot pay up front, and he's usually unable to do that. He just does. It's not even that he doesn't have enough supporters. It's just that the cost of living, medical care, everything has gotten so much more expensive, and it's not possible to, we would need so many more donors, so much more donations to help support them enough so that every child can stay treated if they're relying on that medical clinic. So, our goal, our hope, our dream right now is to get that clinic like officially launched in a way that is a little bit more reliable, and all children can be treated from home, and it will be the cheapest medical care that they have ever had, which is amazing, and I cannot wait for that. So that is the reason I've been pushing so much for finishing the clinic, because it's so needed right now. And I'm really sorry to also tell you this too. I know it can be so overwhelming, the amount of need Kafunjo has. I know it never ends, and like I said earlier at the beginning of this video, I will be honest, these needs are probably not going to end anytime soon. It is one after the other. They do keep coming, and it's because of life has just changed so much everywhere, but in Uganda since COVID became a thing. So, anyways, the other news that I was going to share was that sadly they just ran out of beans as well. Right, it's about, let's see, what time is it? Here it's 6 o'clock. So in Uganda right now it's 6 p.m. here. And in Uganda it would be, let me see if I can do this right. I think that would be 4 p.m.? No, 4 a.m. It's 4 a.m. in Uganda. So, last night in Uganda, they finished up all the beans they had. When they wake up, they will only have posho, which is cornstarch cooked with water, and some spinach to divvy up among all the children, and that is it. They've never not had beans before, and there are many children at the project who cannot eat posho every day because it makes them sick. I think I already talked about that. Yeah, so right now they're needing food, they're needing medicine. It's just true that they do need a lot. And so anyways, that was all the updates I had to share. I wish so much I could explain to you guys how worthy of a community this is. Honestly, I I cannot tell you how much I love these people. I love them so much. To me, they are so worth any dollar I send over there to help them And something that I have really been wanting to express to you guys is how far a small donation can go. If we all share the mindset that a little can go so far, if we all gave a little bit, we would have already, if we all just gave $10, each of us who saw this video, we would easily be able to fund their whole clinic, pay their nurse, keep paying their nurse, and also buy food. So your donation does not even have to be a big one to make a difference. If we all collectively agreed that like a small amount can go so far, then all of our small amounts. This sounds so cliche now when I say it, but it's just true. It's just true. Small amounts can go so far when we all work together as a U.S. community support team for Kafunjo. And yeah, that's really all I had to say. I'm sorry. I meant for this video to be a lot shorter than it is. I'm at like 26 minutes now. So cheers to you. If you got to the end of this, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for loving Kafunjo like we do. Thank you so much for supporting them. I promise you, and Bruno has said so many times, it is because of your help that they are still alive. Yeah, these children are worth it, and I really hope you can see that. I love them so much. I can't say that enough. Anyways, please let me know if you have any questions at all. If I don't know the answer to it, I will contact Bruno, or feel free to contact Bruno yourself too. You can get to know him. His main Facebook account is Kafunjo Bruno. He's very accessible on Facebook. That's how I always get my information from him, is through Messenger on Facebook. And the poor guy, he puts up with me really well because I harass him with questions all the time for posts, for post thank you emails and, everything else. Okay, anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of our community. We're so happy to have you.